Hi, my name is Jersey Drost. I'm a cartoonist and teaching artist, and I'm going to watercolor this drawing that I did of these, what would it be? Heroes and barbarian cats. We're going to get started right now. Okay, what do I got for tools? Well, like I said, I'm going to watercolor. So I got my watercolor tin, my travel one. And then I got a couple of watercolor brushes. These are plastic brushes that you can recharge with water. Just put water in the chamber here. This is due for a washing. Okay. Time to get started. What am I going to start with? I know what I'm going to do. Let's start with this cat down here, a little pirate cat. And she's a calico, so I'm going to have to reference some images of calico cats. As I go, it goes a little bit. Orange a little bit more saturated. There we go. I'm looking at a reference image. That's why I keep looking up everybody. I've put no thought into what color her outfit will be. And it's all white around the neck, eh? Okay. That was easy enough. How am I going to get that color of greenish gold? Good question. I think I already have it here. What color do I see in that fur, the white fur? Now the tail, all sorts of orange and brown. I need to get my bigger brush up. There we go. For those wondering, this was penciled in Clip Studio Paint, printed onto, oh, that was almost bad. Printed out onto Hansen watercolor paper. And inked with brush pens. All right, now what am I going to do about this costume here? What color should I make it? While I think about it, I'll just paint her belt. So every Saturday night, I sit down and try to figure out what's one thing I can draw very quickly, whether it's analog or digital. And something that I can bring to the Monday live stream. So I try to get like one finished drawing to bring to the Monday live stream. And the other sort of sub theme of this is can I continue to experiment with different methods of comic making in order to find out what's the most efficient, most let me put it this way. How can I find the right balance of efficiency of drawing and also pleasure of drawing? Is it can I find a combination that's also like fun for me to do? So it's not just about like, can I crank out the widgets the fastest? Quality be damned. It's also, I'm trying to find a healthy balance so that the making of this thing, it's going to be a grind at times when making a long comic. I've done it a number of times now, and the grind is inescapable no matter how much you love the project. But can I find ways to trick myself? So I can make it less of a grind. Whoops, I want to, that's part of her cuff. I want to get that out of there. There we go. Oh, come on. Okay. Then the end of the scabbard. So I am trying to think about like something that has a complement to the orange. Kind of bluish, purplish, indigo. I think I'm gonna go for purple. Save my work. I'm kidding. I know it's not digital. But I always usually take a drink of coffee when I'm hitting save. When I'm doing the digital stuff. Well, let's get some purple in here. How about my indigo? Okay. I really should have pre-wet this. My goodness. That's purple cape 2 over here. You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to go for the old Magneto costume color combination. Yeah, I think that'll work great. Okay, let's get this clicked off. Side. I'll put that red on the inside of her cape there too. So now what to make this little piping bit? Might just make that purple too. I'm just gonna make that purple. Now, what I'm probably going to do is during Thursday's live stream, I will do a digital version of this. I'm going to paint it in Clip Studio Paint to see what kind of different results I get. That'll be the same time as this one, which is 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific time. Fix that. Lift away some of that color just a little bit. Yeah, that's nice. Oops. All right, what to do about that shirt, though? What to do about that shirt? Should I just leave it white and just shade it light blue or something? I don't know. I might do that. Or gray. I think a gray would work. Let's figure out what kind of gray I want to use. Go for like a triadic kind of thing where you go like purple, orange, and what would be the other one? And imagining the color wheel in my head. It'd be someplace in like the teal. A little tiny bit of yellow. I'll clean my brush off because I want to wet down her shirt. Some of that gray is already in there. I didn't clean up my brush entirely. Instinctively went over to my palette to get more color. No, I want more water. Okay, I think that's wet enough, maybe? Maybe? Maybe it wasn't. Tiniest touch of purple to it. Come on. You can do it. Talking about tools. See this kind of pooling here? I can switch to and get up a little closer. So this kind of cool pooling that happens like in some of these spaces on her shirt there and there. Like that kind of stuff, I have a devil of a time getting the brushes to do that in Clip Studio Paint. As cool as those brushes are, I have to keep working on that. Well, Martha Beard the Pirate, I think you might be painted. Well, that's too green. There we go. And I'm going to break out my pen because as I'm looking at my reference images, I realize that part of her nose is black. How are we doing on time? 23 minutes in, making good time. All right, so now it's time to do this big barbarian cat. I look up reference images of her. Oh my goodness. Why can't I find my photo album? This is what happens when you have tens of thousands of photos. No results when I search for the album's name. Okay. There we go. I found it. So now I'll get started painting this big barbarian cat. Get her colors. Need a lot of brown for her. Okay. Still a lot of brown left in this. Okay, get the brown in there. Oh, goodness. What happens when you work fast and loose? I think I made her tail too wet. Arm. So I went the opposite direction. Just focus on getting that brown. Okay, now let's get the black gouache out. I'm going to darken up some of these areas. Okay, now what I'm going to do. I wonder if I should let that dry for now. I want to do some of the other areas. Hey, Devin, thank you. Just playing around with some different character designs. So I think what I'm going to do, there's some actual world building stuff that I want to do here with this skull on her shoulder. Is that there's these creatures in my mini comics with my talking animals called fire skeletons. They're typically dogs. And the fire skeletons are like bright orange and red. These are fire. I think that's what I'm going to do for this character. Oh, goodness gracious. Never put your hand in wet watercolor paint. Oh, now I lifted out the color. Okay, lesson learned. Turn it upside down. You don't rest your hand on parts where there's paint going on. Man, I used to know that when I used to do what was it called? Crow quill inks. Where's my light source? Light source is here. think I'm going to red this up a little bit because I'm worried about it blending in too much with the other cat's color orange there. There's another reason I'm doing this is, I mean, not just because of like the world buildy stuff, but because it abstracts it out a little bit. I mean, like she's got a skull on her shoulder. Does that mean she murdered somebody? Nope, she defeated a monster, a ghost, a spirit creature, which still, I'm not super crazy about that idea either. But if I can abstract it out just a tiny bit, I'm happy. But the other idea I'm trying to get across with her design is that she is not to be messed with. Don't come near this lady unless you're looking for trouble. Okay. Did I make that distinct enough from the other cat's head? No, I did not. Now I'm worried they're all blended together. That was a mistake. I should have done it like traditional skull colors. All right, we're gonna make it a little bit more purple. There we go. Hey, Dordoys. 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 I said it right. Okay, so now I was going to mix up some of the brown and purple shading on Barbarian Cat. Like tortoise. You've probably told me that before. Tortoise. How am I doing on time? 35 minutes. Making great time. You may have noticed that I'm always looking at the clock because I'm always trying to keep these things an hour or less. Because that's also part of the experimentation that I'm doing is trying to figure out, can I do this stuff in a way that gets me results that I like, but also quickly? Can I do it in a way where I'm not just phoning it in, but also doing it way more quickly? All right, now time to do her head. This is one I've been dreading because she's got a lot of like specific color patterns on her head. Oops, wrong color. Black. Black, black, black. That's what I want. Well, let's scoop this up. bunch of black. There we go. Brown. Okay. This is a little bit more of a tedious way of getting my brush cleaned off than like just wringing it around in a cup of water. But a lot less chance I'm going to spill my water. I've only had that happen a couple times. I don't know why I'm so worried about it. And that's clean enough. Okay, let's go ahead and do her face. Lift that up just a tiny bit. Put too much paint down. Now I gotta get some yellowish orange in there. Touch of brown. Because if I go back and look at some close-ups of this kid's face, yep, there'd be some goldish brown here. Not that much. There we go. If I can get a little bit of that color out of there. Blend that a little bit more. Now let's get some shading on the white furry parts. I do something similar to what I did with Pirate Lady here. Some yellowish. No, that's about as good as I can do with that. I don't even know how much this is showing up. Not crazy about what's going on down here either. I'm having a rough time on this one, everybody. But then again, that's what I was talking about earlier about like, like there's always like difficult, grindy parts in the process of making anything. There's also parts where you're lost in the weeds. You're not sure. Am I even, what am I doing here? Is it mounting to anything? Am I on the right track? A lot of it. All right, these skulls, maybe. Good thing is, do I have any deep lore for the Jersey verse? That's a good question. I don't know that I do. I mean, well, I have some ideas about types of creatures that inhabit different, I guess you would say, like magical or dimensional spaces. But do I have lore in the sense of do I have maps drawn or anything like that? No. I make up the town names as I need to. I have some sort of internal rules that I've constructed. Like, for instance, this came up when I was talking with some students about the movie Zootopia. And they were saying, like, oh, you never see any of the animals, like, eating a hamburger. At least I don't think so. I'm like, well, yeah, like, the moment you do something with sentient animals, you present a really interesting problem. And so, I decided a long time ago that, like, okay, well, we're not going to see anybody eating meat in this world. Not to make any kind of like push for vegetarianism on anybody, but more or less just to address this idea of like, well, you have talking animals. If you have them eating each other, you essentially have cannibalism, like a form of it. And I don't want to have that conversation. At least that's how I perceive it. Some people might not. I don't know if it would be if I would benefit from like actually developing some, proper lore. 'Cause I know I get a kick out of it in other stories. Like I love like the lore in some of the kids' cartoons I grew up with. Like I remember having conversations with my buddies when I was in high school about like the nature of the Autobot matrix. Is it a repository for all the fallen Autobots? Is it a piece of their lost god Primus? And what would different Autobots have to say about that if they were debating the nature of it? Oops. But outside of like the trivia of that, I've never like gotten super interested in that. I did read the Silmarillion. Like I got deep into the Tolkien lore when I was reading Lord of the Rings, but what always I find myself more attracted to than anything else in stories is like big ideas and characters. And actually, I should mention the podcast I do called the 4 Million Years Later podcast, where I talk with my buddy Hoover about Transformers cartoons. And like he gets really irate when they introduce characters and don't explain where they came from. Like they introduce the characters like they've just always been there. We should know this. And I explained how, like, when I was a kid, I just assumed they were introduced someplace else and I just missed it. And so I never got mad about that. I always just felt like, oh, I should pay closer attention. So, yeah, I'm a kid. I was a kid who didn't really get that worked up about lore. But I understand why people do enjoy it. I have another friend who says, like, if you open your book with a map, I'm out. And there's people who are like, oh my gosh, that's the best thing when you open a book and there's a map on the first page or the inside front cover. Okay, I might be nearly done with this. I'm gonna add a little bit more this orange here. Give this thing a little bit more of like a weather-beaten look. I never assume when I start a story that we're starting at the very beginning of the adventure. It seems strange to me that you'd go on an adventure with someone you've recently met. An interesting point of view, Joseph. You're talking about like Wizard of Oz, like I meet Scarecrow and 5 minutes later, I'm like, you want to go on a quest together? Yeah, why not? Do that axe. Yeah, I think, at least for me, this is just my influence doing its work, where is that the things that fuel my imagination or like deeply inspire the kinds of work I'd like to do is the afternoon cartoons I grew up with. Surprise, surprise. And they very rarely started out with an origin story. And as a matter of fact, I mean, this is funny now that I haven't thought about this in a while. When the new Spider-Man movies first are coming, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, new. When they came out, I remember when I found out, oh, it's going to be the origin story, I was like, oh, what a drag. I just want to see him just doing stuff. I don't want to go through the whole like, oh, I have powers. What am I going to do about it? I know that story, right? See, Joseph, it's super interesting that you say that because I feel like a lot of, I want to say a lot of advice that I've been given over the years has always been like, you got to start with the origin story. You have to start with the origin story. And it's like, well, I like stories where, that can be revealed over time if it's even necessary. I don't always feel like the origin story is necessary. Like, I enjoyed Solo, the Star Wars movie, and like learning how he met Chewbacca and everything, but I didn't need to know. That wasn't something where I was craving it. Like, oh, I gotta know. How did these two guys become friends? I just need to know the dynamic, and I need to know the way they work together and what they get from one another. I think I need some darker shading on Warrior Cat here. Yeah, I do. There we go. I feel like sometimes that idea of like start at the beginning is taken too literally, I guess is what I'm saying. Like the beginning can be like the beginning of a different stage. I mean, some of the people you meet in your life have all sorts of history before you met them, right? But your meeting with them is the beginning of your relationship with them. Okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking foolishness. I could be. I think that's just the axe handle to do, and I'm only 6 minutes out from the end, so making good time today. Okay, let's this grayish blue. Those ropes holding her axe head together. When I write a new story, do I place it on a timeline and relate it with other events? I don't really. Although I should say, I mostly with these characters that I've been working on, I've mostly been doing mini comics. So I mean, when I start doing some longer stuff with them, I did one longer story with Boulder and Fleet, right? Mining for Trouble, which you can find at books.jdrose.com. I did do a longer story, but it was still a self-contained thing. I'm not with my stories. I'm not trying to achieve anything particularly epic. I'm not trying to do like an Infinity War kind of thing. I like those movies, like those storylines, like those big crossovers, like Crisis on Infinite Earths, but it's not something that I'm after in my own work. I'm going for something that's a little bit more episodic and self-contained. Okay, what am I missing here? Background color behind him. Do I have enough time? I have like 4 minutes, 45 seconds. Of course I have time. I'm going to pre-wet it. Like for me, I think what interests me as a creative person is trying to write something that builds on itself, but is self-contained enough that you can step in at any point and can I hint at the larger world so that if you read a second book or a third book, whatever, you're like, oh, this stuff relates to something that I understood that the function of this character in this other piece or this other story, but I didn't understand the full impact of who they were until I read this other one. That is creatively very interesting to me. And also, I think part of it is just like I'm beginning to have a sense of fatigue with how, and this is my own opinion. This is by no means, I'm not trying to say this is like I'm not trying to convince anybody of this, but I personally am just like getting a little worn out on how every kid's cartoon has to build like a story arc. And there has to be like some kind of like deeper mystery that slowly gets revealed over time. And in the season finale, there's like a big shocking reveal. And we got like, I loved Gravity Falls, but I feel like it's an emblem of like what kids' cartoons are right now. And to another degree, kids' comics, graphic novels. I guess I want to do something that feels like the spirit of Dave Pilkey's stuff, but with like Indiana Jones adventure. Oh, does Discworld do that, Joseph? I've heard of Discworld. I've never read it. And my opinion could totally change on this in a second, right? Like this is just where like you're getting a sliver of time. This is me in, spring 2021, how I feel about this stuff. I reserve the right to change my mind at any time. But no, I don't do a whole lot of writing about the world. I just sort of like make it up as I go along. I come up with a few hard and fast rules about the way it should work, like in terms of like, well, we're never going to see animals eating one another. The what is it? The currency, the denomination of their currency is monies. I have 3 monies, like little dumb things like that give it like a sense of like a silliness and an otherworldliness. Like I can't be 100% sure because it's been ages since I watched it, but I seem to remember like Silverhawks had, I think it was Spacebucks. I want to say it was Spacebucks, but I could be wrong. And like silliness like that is I find that very charming and appealing. Well, I think that's it. I think I did it. I think I did a drawing. And like right on 1 hour on the mark. Okay. So I'm going to be back Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific. If you enjoyed this, if you had a good time watching this, please give the video a thumbs up if you're watching it on YouTube. If you're watching it on Twitch, tell people about the channel so they can enjoy it too. And I'll be back and I'm going to try doing a digital version of this and see how it turns out. I'm going to be working in Clip Studio Paint, painting these cat characters. So thanks everybody for hanging out with me and chatting with me about storytelling and comics while I was working. Until next time, I have been Jersey Drozd of jdrozd.com, rss.jdrozd.com for everything that I make and things that I'm listening to. Okay, bye.